Hi there everyone, and welcome to our YouTube channel. My name's John from Bethel here in Cardiff, and at the moment we're in a season where we're thinking about what it means to be led by love. And we're preparing for a weekend after Pentecost that we're calling The Church Has Left the Building. And as you know, if you're part of the Bethel family, we're thinking and praying about activities, projects that we can do together on that Sunday that will really bless our local community. Some of us have had experience of this way in the past with some Hope projects, and looking forward to rolling up our sleeves and getting back into it again. But it's great today to be joined by Mat Wals from the Message Wales, and to be sharing a story of this as well. I'm really pleased that Tim, who's just hot-footed it back from an assembly, bless his heart, he's been feeding the 5,000 this morning, and Tim and I are just going to share in a conversation with Matt together about all of that. So Matt, I'm just going to come straight to you. First of all, thanks for being here. Thanks for decorating your walls with maps of Wales to remind us where you are. That's really good. I was just saying before we got started, I feel like I need more maps. We need to be more map-based. But Matt, great to have you with us. So I was reading, Matt, about this mission up in Manchester and about the 3,500 that responded there to the gospel during that, but also reading the reports of what led up into that and some of the sort of community action and the love and the heart for the community. So yeah, just great to have you with us, and great to have you share something of that story.
Yeah, great to be here. Thank you so much for having me. It's an amazing story, and when you just hear those headline stats of 3,500 people, it's impressive in itself. But when you dig into the detail as to why that happened, how we got there, it just it blows my mind now, even thinking about it. Where are we? A good year on since the festival happened. But amazingly, it all started really, to trace it right back to the COVID pandemic. We feel like, we're far enough away from it that we can forget about it. But what happened with the lockdown starting in 2020, that's kind of the reason why we ended up with the massive festival that we did in Manchester. So yeah, really exciting journey that we've been on.
Yeah, and I guess that's I think a lot of us just breathe a sigh of relief to be out the side of COVID for all kinds of reasons. Even being back on Zoom seems like we're taking a step back, but there are other stories, aren't there, of how God is able and was able to bring the good out of that, and even use aspects of it for His glory.
Yeah, so for us at Message Wales, to give those of you context, we're a Christian-based charity which is gospel-centered and gospel-focused. So everything we do is about being able to share the hope that there is in knowing Jesus. So here in Wales, we work in prisons, we work in secondary schools, we have a mobile bus which goes and does kind of detached youth work. We engage with churches and help with all sorts of mission weeks like the one that you're planning on doing. We run Cardiff street passes and lots of other things. So we're about the business of being around people. So you can imagine when something like COVID comes along and restricts us in lots of different ways, but particularly in terms of being able to engage with people, that was a real blow for us as a charity. But God has His ways, and so even in that first summer of 2020, both here in Wales and the various hubs around the UK, we were determined to not let the pandemic stop the gospel from being shared. So we would find creative ways to do that. So initially, this is all leading up to the festival in Manchester in 2022, but in 2020 we just found creative ways to get out onto the streets to be able to show people the love of God and share the love of God without having to be in people's houses. So we had ridiculous ideas, like we took a trailer, we took a Santa sleigh that normally goes around Christmas, and we took a Hawaiian Santa around the streets of Cardiff and Philly and Swansea, and we just had a summer Christmas party. We gave out candy canes, we sung carols on the streets, and we invited people to online Zoom courses and alpha courses and all sorts of things like that, and just had tremendous fun doing things like that. And it was in that first summer of 2020, Andy Hawthorne, who set up the Message Trust, who's our kind of CEO, he was felt there in that summer when we had a little bit of restriction lifted, really felt like God was speaking to him about going big and going for the whole festival idea. So you can imagine in the middle of a pandemic, that seems like the most crazy idea possible, to think about gathering thousands of people together and planning something like that when you don't know what's going to happen with COVID or how long it was going to last. But really felt God was speaking, had that inner conviction in his heart. He spoke to some trusted people and they all seemed to say, you know what, let's go for something like that. So we kind of built off the back of these kind of crazy summer outreach, social action, community project type vibes. 2021, we really kind of doubled down on going out into the communities and doing the social action thing. You know, when you show people practically the love of God. So we want to tell people the love of God, and that's great. But actually being able to show people the love of God alongside it, that's super important. And great that you guys are planning on doing something like that. But the two have to go hand in hand, don't they? You can't just do good things. We're not called to be the good people. We're called to be the gospel people. So we do good things because of the gospel. And as we do good things, we tell people we're doing this because God loves you and we want to show you God's love in a practical way. So just to kind of encourage you from a local perspective, 2021, one of the projects we were involved in was in Lansbury Park in Caerphilly. We worked with about a dozen churches, and again we put on a whole load of social action project. We did loads of gardens, I think 40-50 gardens. We did litter picking, we did prayer walking in the community, and that was over a weekend. And on the bank holiday Monday, we put on a fun day for the community with fairground rides and bouncy castles and face painting and all that sort of stuff. And it was amazing. Again, just kind of coming out of lockdown restriction, not entirely sure what people were feeling about being in large crowds, but we had 450 people from that community in Caerphilly come along to the fun day. And we also did, I forgot to mention, we did in one of the kind of big green spaces around the housing estate, we did a kind of Sunday afternoon service. So like you said, we took the church out of the building and we were able to just do a service in the community, and people came in. We had hundreds of people just coming in, and some of them sitting from their houses watching, some of them joining us, and it was just fantastic. It's just so encouraging to your faith as you put it into practice, to have opportunity to show people practically why you do what you do, why you believe what you believe, and then to follow that up with conversations, to offer prayer, to be able to share one-on-one with the gospel, or to invite them to kind of further events. I think everyone, all the churches that were involved, just you saw their faith being lifted, and that was one of the benefits. Yes, we got to share the love of God. Yes, people got saved, but also to see the Christians realize that they all had something they could do with their hands. They didn't all have to be the preacher, they didn't all have to be the church leader, they didn't all have to be the extrovert or the evangelist. Everyone could get involved and everyone could play their part. And it was just such an exciting time. And so all of this is kind of rumbling along, and in the background, the message as a whole organization, we're going, well, these events locally are great, but what if we do the big thing? What if we really go for it and do a festival like we've never done before? And for the message, we have done festivals before. People may remember Festival Manchester. I don't know how many people here would remember what was going up in the northwest of England, but we did things like Festival Manchester in 2000 and another one in 2003. So it'd been 20 years since we'd done a festival. But what was different this time was that, yes, we can do the lamp on the stand, the big events that people can see, but also pairing that with the social action to say, let's do the kind of the salt of the earth, the lamp on the stand stuff is good, but the salt on the earth stuff is good as well. Let's put the gospel high up on a platform where people can sit under the sound of the gospel and hear truths being spoken or through the songs and etc. But also let's get alongside people, let's get involved in community, and those two things, salt and light, working together. And so Festival Manchester was about not just doing the big events on the stage, but about doing getting stuck in the community. It was more than we could have imagined that came off the back of that. So
sounds amazing. I loved what you were saying. Well, partly I was getting nervous because Tim is a crazy ideas guy, and you've just given him about 3 or 4. I can see him as a Hawaiian Santa in
I'm
the summer.
making notes. It's yeah. There's lots of lists.
But I love the idea of bringing the sort of the lamp on the stand and the salt of the earth kind of stuff, bringing those two together. Because I think, you know, very often there's an old quote, isn't there? I think is it Saint Augustine is meant to have said, "Go into all the world and preach the gospel using words where necessary." And I often think to myself, I love it and I don't love it, because if we expect to be able to share the gospel without ever explaining it to people, that's actually a huge, like, if you want to try and live like that, but consistently, with never having to say the name Jesus, you're going to have to work incredibly hard. I think I know what he's saying, that we need to demonstrate the gospel, but that can never be devoid of preaching the gospel. And hopefully that's a huge encouragement to people as well, because I know a whole bunch of people who are passionate about Jesus, passionate about the gospel, but whose initial gifting isn't as an evangelist, who can sometimes feel that they have to leave it to others to do. But you know, these kind of activities that can involve everyone's gifting, you know, everyone's abilities, everyone's heart, you know, it's far more exciting. And you were saying about faith being lifted, and absolutely.
That's it, and rest. You can rest easy, because that quote, which is often attributed to Saint Augustine, is not found in any of his writings or teachings. There's no record that he ever said that, and actually, it kind of flies in the face of everything that he did say. So he was very much an advocate for word and deed, that they needed to go hand in hand. So it's a brilliantly famous quote, which probably wasn't spoken by him at all.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah. So so Festival Manchester was this on a grand scale, and just to encourage you guys of what happened. I think one of the successes, there were many, but one of the successes really was seeing churches work together, because we are one bride, aren't we? The church of God is one church. Jesus isn't coming back for just your church or just my church. He's coming back for the church, and when we are united, we are so much stronger together, and we show the world something different. So one of the beautiful things was being able to say, this isn't a message thing, this is a church thing. And over the course of kind of building up to Festival Manchester, I think we had something like over 300 churches that were engaged with or playing their parts, either doing stuff locally or being involved in the bigger picture that happened over the kind of the weekend of the festival. And I think that probably had a huge impact on what felt like the favor of God, is that this wasn't just us, this was everyone working together. But I know you're dying to hear about what happened, so let me kind of tell you some of the things that made Festival Manchester so amazing. So in the build up to Festival Manchester, and this is why we had such an amazing weekend, is we have bands here at the Message, and we send bands into schools, and they do amazing schools work. And so in the lead up to the summer of 2022, we had our bands go and visit 86 of the secondary schools around Greater Manchester. So we saw over 45,000 kids in schools, which was just phenomenal. And then obviously being able to say to all those kids, hey, by the way, there's this massive free festival that's happening this summer, why don't you come along? And then lots of other kind of like lead-up events. So we had events in the local skate parks, we had community projects, the kind of the social action, going and doing the gardening and litter picking. I think it was something like 157,000 hours worth of community projects were done in Wythenshawe, which is part of Manchester. That most of it was there, but also churches engaging all over the city. We're doing social action, so that's just an incredible start. I don't think we'll see that for the coronation weekend.
That's incredible. That's mad.
It's mad, isn't it? Just to think that that's what the church can do when it's mobilized and it gets together to make that much of an impact. But more than the social action, we did a gala dinner for the business community. We did a kind of similar gala dinner, same kind of high level of professionalism and like your proper 3-course, 4-course meals. We did one of those for the homeless community, for people experiencing homeless, and they were all invited to this amazing slap-up dinner, and to show them that they were loved and valued by God, and that there was hope for them in Jesus. We did another one for people who worked in the sex community, prostitutes and the like, and were able to put on a specific women's event that showed them that they were loved by God. And then in terms of engaging the community, we also went around primary schools, and we put together a choir. So we had a 500 strong choir from schools from around the area. The teams went in, taught them these songs, and then they were invited on the festival weekend to come and perform on this massive main stage as a choir. So a whole bunch came one day, I think Saturday, a whole bunch came on the Sunday, and they all got together and performed. And I mean, that was a stroke of genius, because those kids were so excited, and then of course they brought their families, and so it was a really good experience. But yeah, so just so many different things happening leading up to the event, and then the event itself was a 3-day festival in the park. We had the big band, a big stage. We had the bands. We had fairground rides. We had a fleet of our message buses all there, so like a bus village. There was a skate park that we built in the middle of the field, so there was kind of exhibition skaters and BMXers and all these kind of like amazing things going on. And I think over the weekend we saw something like 65,000 people come through the gates and into the park on one of the 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And as you said, throughout it all, there were multiple opportunities where the gospel was preached, and particularly on the big stage and the evening gigs. And we saw 3,472 recorded responses to the gospel, which is just is amazing. That is a dream, isn't it? To know that all that effort, all those people, all that love going out, just trying to show people, not just say, come to our church, come to our Sunday service, but to actually show people how much God loves them in all these different practical ways, and inviting them to probably the best weekend of their lives. And it was all free. And of course, God's going to move. Of course, he's going to do something in people's hearts and lives. And so, yeah, we were thrilled to be able to do that last summer.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. And you are right in saying that obviously the headline that perhaps people respond to is the number that responded to the gospel, which is it's so incredible to hear. But it's really helpful to hear about the legwork behind that. There's thousands of hours of community service, and sorry, not community service, but serving community, and just demonstrating so that when the invitation goes out, it's coming from a place that a source that people have heard of and can trust, and that's so important, isn't it, to build those relationships?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the spiritual temperature in Wales particularly is higher at the moment. Bible Society have done some great stats and research on that, but the spiritual temperature is high. People are genuinely interested or intrigued about some element of faith. They might not realize what it is, or might not direct it straight at Christianity. They might not think, I'll go to church, but people are curious. People are open. People are interested. And the reason I think a lot of people wouldn't necessarily step into a church building or come to an event is not because they don't want to, it's because they're not invited. And, gone are the days where everyone went to church because that's the thing that you do. But people love personal connection. People love to feel welcome. And then, yes, a flyer or a website, that might help. But what people respond to is that personal invite. And it doesn't even have to be something that you know well. You can just say to your neighbor, oh, we've got this thing going on this weekend. Would you like to come? And it's that personal touch that actually gets people to cross over that line to say, yeah, well, I am quite curious, so maybe I will come because you've reached out to me as a human. And so, yeah, we need to, all of us, just kind of get over that fear, get over that sense of I can't do it, and just extend the invite to come and be part of something, to experience the love of God in whatever way, small or big, that might be.
Yeah,
it's amazing some of the descriptions of the events and things like that you've given are kind of like they're core things that we look to as a Christian, like sharing the gospel and things like that. Fantastic, but joining together with others to do something and to show people the gospel, not just share it. Like you said, they have to come balanced. You have to have the teaching as well as the doing, but they're so core, and it's amazing that sometimes we have to kind of like step back and go, yeah, this is what we're meant to be doing as Christians. We're meant to be out there. We're meant to be among people. We're meant to be sharing. I'm reminded of Acts, the early church when it was starting out, was they helped each other in all things, financially or giving or physically, or, everybody was just there together. And I love this idea of just lots of people working together and just helping community. It's awesome.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's not something I don't think that we're naturally very good at. I think as churches, we can get so focused on our own thing. It's we keep going on, don't we? That the church is not the building. But we still haven't got it. We still try and fill our building or fill our structure or fill our program or whatever it is. But you're right, Tim. The New Testament church were so concerned about each other. Their idea of even talking about themselves as a local church, even that is modern language, isn't it? They just spoke about the church and then the church in Corinth or wherever it was. So yeah, we've somehow got to get over this. And the call of the gospel hopefully is a high enough call to get us looking above our little parapets and seeing each other. Yeah, I loved what you were saying, Matt, about a personal invitation. This whole thing about, yes, a website is a useful tool, or a flyer, but the word in Jesus becomes flesh, doesn't he? And that the power of a personal flesh and blood invitation is always going to be more powerful. And I wonder sometimes, and Tim, I'm sure you've reflected on this and stuff that you've done through lockdown and beyond it, whether sometimes we settle for creating resources, but actually without a flesh and blood person delivering or sharing or bringing those resources, we sort of forget that our greatest resource is people. It's our greatest gift to the church is who we are, is what we bring, is not our ability, is who we are.
Yeah,
because I find that in youth and children's work, like as a resource, I'm employed by the church to do stuff with around youth and children's and schools work, which is fantastic. But from a safeguarding point of view, we always need other people there, other helpers, other leaders and things like that. And so, yes, I'm a resource, but we also need other people to be able to come forward and use their gifts in order to share. So yeah, I do find that quite often that it's not just me, it's other people being able to step forward and doing that and sharing their gift. And I'm challenged by that big time, like by other people like stepping forward and going, oh yeah, what about this idea? Because otherwise it can be all about me and all about my ideas, and I've got rubbish ideas sometimes about surfing Santas and stuff, but no, and I think that's the joy about working together with other people. I did find that during lockdown, like you almost became a bit isolated in like what you were doing and what you were able to put out, and then coming back in now and having youth groups where I've got other leaders to bounce off of is just wonderful, and being able to share with the young people again is just wonderful as well.
Yeah, amazing, absolutely amazing. Well, Matt, it's been so great to share. Just thank you so much for your time, and you're going to be with us in a couple of weeks' time. I think you're with us the Sunday after the church has left the building, so hopefully we'll have some great stuff to share. But it's been so good to talk and hear a bit more about what led into what investment it took really to see that harvest. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to being with you.